Coogs House. All right, 3 years ago, you beat that team by what, like 8? Tonight it was 36. So what's the difference?
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougars Daily Podcast all about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Angel. Coming at you from the kitchen today as we're recording a little bit different setup. Thank you for joining us on this late night Cougars After Dark edition, just following the basketball win over Hofstra. Houston wins 80-44. Pretty dominant effort start to finish. I want to talk a little bit about this one and keep it on moving and use that good energy into tomorrow's game against Baylor. So, real simple. I want to talk about the future, what this game means. Guys spent some time on JOJO TUGLER. Big fella played phenomenally on this one, in this one, and then just general reaction to the game. You got comments, keep them coming. Throw them in the chat down below. If you don't know what to say, we enjoy the conversation anyway. Tell us what you think of pumpkins. You're a pumpkin person? You're a pumpkin fan? I am. The cat's out of the bag on that one, I think. All right, so Houston wins 80-44. Only has one starter in double digits. And frankly, if you told me they only have one starter in double digits and that, Hofstra's going to have a guy shoot 50% from three on 12 attempts. And so that I'd be like, oh, this got close. This got problematic. This got worse, right? It was decidedly not that. Huge game from the bench in this one. Bench had as many points as Hofstra did, which I think is always a good thing because that means it starts to have all of one basket. When I look at this one, I think what's interesting is we talked about on Thursday's show, or I guess Friday's show, so I recorded Thursday but Friday's show, about getting right in this game after a week off because you're about to have a bunch of basketball over the next week against really good teams, right? You got Alabama, you got Notre Dame, everyone in the NIL Players Classic, right? Having 20 assists to just 4 turnovers and shooting the ball 46.8% is kind of picture perfect that, right? Everything's clean up 62% from the free throw line and stuff like that feel like, just hadn't gotten out and done it in a while. But on the whole, I just feel like this one had a whole lot of good mojo going Houston's way. Now, I will say part of that's obviously it's not the same kind of opponent they're going to see next week or anything quite like that. However, as you look at what they've got going on Friday night, it was a pretty strong performance leading you into Las Vegas. Emmanuel Sharp, 16 points, 5 3-pointers made. Really, really impressive from the arc. I loved the way he got it on so many drive and kickouts and skip passes and stuff like that as well. Good movement without the basketball on each of those, right? It wasn't a bunch of pull-up threes off bounds or anything like that. It was very clearly just good movement without the ball and finding space, open space, to let it fly from. He had a couple from deep, too, that Hofstra had to just be killing themselves over because, what do you do at that point, right? Really, really good and dominant effort from him in that one. As far as the other starters go, I thought Milos controlled the pace pretty well. I thought he played pretty good traditional point guards kind of game. Did have 6 assists, did have 5 rebounds, just had 4 points, just took 5 shots, was not feeling it from the floor. And so he found other ways to get folks involved, right? And so I think that's really important. I think it's also important to look at this like, hey, he can impact a game positively, even if he's not necessarily a big-time scorer. His size on defense is always tremendous. There are multiple times that as a 6'4" point guard, he could backside tag the roller, and just being a bigger body there kind of deterred some entry passes. Admittedly, Hofstra plays a relatively small front line, a lot of 6'7s and 6'8s, not a whole lot of 7-footers, right? But Milos is able to be a backside tag help in a way that was really, really important in this one. And I guess really the truth is that defensively, I thought a lot of the movement was really strong. A lot of rotations were great. Backside guys going up for blocks, stuff like that. It did feel like they let Hofstra get up a couple easy threes, different points. Obviously, I missed it if you were following me on X, formerly known as Twitter, or social media, wherever you found it. I was late to watching this one because of that coaching. But it did look like that part of the early struggles in this game were that Hofstra hit some deep threes. And while that's obviously somewhat problematic, it also, like, teams are going to make shots. That Cruz Davis guy is his shooter. He shoots 47% from three on the season, and he shoots like 46% on his career. He hasn't had this much volume until this season. He's been at Iona and St. John's with Rick Pitino before this. So, not that much volume there. So I didn't necessarily have that on my scouting report coming in, because high percentages on low volume is kind of like, could be a randomness factor this early in the season. But clearly he still shoots ball really well and had a lot of attempts at this one. But outside of that, I think defensively, your rotations, you're finding the right guys. And frankly, after he got hot early, you kind of squashed that throughout the game. Did force all the turnovers we thought you would. Houston forced 15 Hofstra turnovers. Hofstra is known for coughing up even at their level of basketball in the CAA, and so that's an important, kind of making them hold true to their tendencies in that. The big story in this one, though, was the bench and the offensive explosion from the bench. And what's interesting, and I think if I mention that, generally speaking, Houston's bench came out and dominated, punched home in the mouth. Everyone assumes Mercy Miller got loose, right? And frankly, he's going to get loose a lot this year. He's a very gifted scorer. And even though he didn't shoot the ball particularly well in this game, he had 2 of 8 from the field and 0 of 3 from behind the arc, he still found wiggling into space in the zone in a way that he clearly understands where space, and has great spatial awareness and understands where space is to get the ball in scoring position, and just shots and ball. And I think that the thing that's interesting to me is Mercy's getting the culture. He's a freshman, true freshman, right, and playing a lot for a freshman under Kelvin Sampson. But part of that's because he's earned it, right? And the other part is that you can see it clicking, right? Okay, he only gets 4 points and 2 of 8 shooting, but he led the team in rebounds with 9 rebounds in 23 minutes, right? That's a shift in who this guy is from a culture perspective. That's a shift in who this guy is from a priorities perspective. Mercy Miller in the first game of the season probably doesn't have that response to shooting the ball poorly, right? And certainly you go back and watch Mercy Miller in high school, he didn't shoot the ball poorly a whole lot, but he would not have had that response then either, right? Instead, ball's not falling, shots not falling. He finds ways to get involved and get active anyway. Now, he's not the most dynamic or most important bench player in this game, I don't guess, but I want to talk about them in a second, led, of course, by one JOJO Tugler. Before we get too far, I do want to tell about our buddies over at Prize Picks, because right now it is so easy to get in on the action and get in on the winning with Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to bet real money, or to get real money, I should say. It's not betting, it's getting real money on sports action. Over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You must just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash back. Run your game all season long with Prize Picks. If you think that Justin Jefferson's going to get more than 83.5 yards next week, or Lamar Jackson's going to pass for more than 1.5 touchdowns, go ahead and cook. Go to Prize Picks. Do it all up there. Make a bunch of money, because you tell me you have all these sports opinions in the comments down below every day. Make a bunch of money doing it over there. Now, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Parker answered Locked On Cougs. You're talking about running the game. Houston beats Hofstra 80-44. And I want to talk some about the bench presence in this one. I mentioned in the first segment that the bench had as many points as Hofstra. I think what's interesting is that it was not led by Mercy, even though I think a lot of times this year it will be, in a game where everyone active in a uniform got on the floor for Houston. The high point man was one JOJO freaking Tugler, because apparently he's never going to miss a shot ever again. It's just not going to happen. Dude went 6 of 6 from the field, 2 of 2 from behind the arc. Also had 4 rebounds and 4 assists, 17 points, 1 dynamic block. I mean, just how does he get to the ball in the air sometimes? But what I think is interesting about Tugler is how much better he's playing in space this year. He's so much more comfortable. The ball is clear, with the ball in his hands, he's clearly got a plan of action. He understands what he needs to do, what he's going to do. Again, 2 of 2 from behind the arc, which makes the defense actually come out and guard him. And then he's long. He's always been athletic. He's always been strong. But now he's got a little bit more wiggle in his step as he gets around up there. And it's just such an incredible growth from a player. Just unbelievable kind of development in just a year and a half. Especially when you think about like how much of last year he spent injured. Really, really impressive both on his part, obviously the work ethic and the coaching staff. Big Kellen works with the big guys, and that ain't easy. Working with like getting that as someone who works with big guys on their own basketball team that are not that fluid. Ours is all right, but not that kind of fluid. That is not easy to work through and wiggle with. JoJo really, really stuck out to me, as he did everybody. He had the big dunk, couple threes from a guy that looks like that size is crazy. His compadre on the bench that I loved seeing this out of was Terrence Arceneaux, and I think he deserves some shine as well for the bench minutes. Now, he had the second most minutes in the game. And I told you on Friday morning's episode, that was something I was going to watch. Coming off the Achilles injury, they're kind of getting him back in gear. Had a long layoff and break between games. You got a bunch of games next week. What's it going to look like for him coming off that Achilles injury? Well, it looked like for him, he got the second most minutes of anyone in Houston Cougars, 23 minutes. Got 7 shots up, had 12 points, 3 rebounds, 4 steals. Really just continues to be a Swiss Army knife. You need him to cover the big guy. You need him to cover the point guard. His length and athleticism let him do all those things. Really hasn't slowed down much since the injury at this point. Looks like the bigger thing is his conditioning. And again, tonight he played the second most minutes on the team. Really, really integral part of the success. Again, he also had the third most points on the team at 12 in what was a kind of spread out, low scoring affair across the entire team. Really, really impressed, obviously, as I am always, by Terrence. But I want to stress, when you watch his movement for a guy that tall and long, you're looking at a pro basketball player. Now, does he have room to get better? Obviously. Is he going to get better this season? Yes. Once he gets his legs completely under him, watch out. And I've said it before, I know it's on this program. There were people talking about drafting him as a freshman that did not start just because of the raw tools. And now you're seeing him put stuff together, putting the ball on the ground, right? Putting a couple bounces on his way to the rim, change directions twice, and then exploding out of that, right? Like, those are things that are, I think, they look easy, but when you factor in like the size and coordination you got to have to do it if you're Terrence, that adds up to be a whole heck of a lot. Good bench minutes across the board, though. I thought Sedlot came in, did his fun stuff. He had a little hook shot in there, too. That was fun to see, right? But did his big guy kind of stuff. Ramon Walker is the ultimate small ball 4. I mentioned on Twitter, I guess it's X, formerly known as Twitter, or Twitter currently known as X. I don't know which one you're going to go with there. That Ramon, he's wearing shorter shorts this year, and I think that's just a stylistic thing. The folks that I watch much high school basketball, short shorts are decidedly back. Back to the tournament we're in right now. We're playing 5 games in 3 days. I saw a team where it looked like the whole team was wearing football pants because their shorts were super short, and then they had the sliders or the compression shorts on under, and I was like, those are at that point you're just wearing football pants to basketball practice or the game, I guess, right? So anyway, that's what's in right now. But Ramon Walker is looking taller to me, but it might just be a short shorts exception. Really, really impressed by him as always. He had a pretty impactful 14 minutes, I thought. Obviously, the game was never really in doubt, although I guess I don't want to say never at all. But if you look at this game, Houston kind of built a lead like the 12-ish minute mark. Houston goes from like kind of competitively with them at like 11-6, 8-6. I guess it was 9-6, 11-6, and then all of a sudden, very quickly you look up and it's 27-10. Like that just run right there, kind of sparked by some Terrence Arceneaux bench minutes. Really, really important, really, really impressive, as always. Right, as always. Houston shot the ball pretty well in this game, 47% overall, 50% from 3. just the 20 turnovers. The big deal for me in this one, though, is and moving forward as we look towards the future, is Houston did not score for the final chunk of time against zone. And I'm weirdly not worried about it. It's kind of the thing I think is good to get out of your system in November before Thanksgiving, to be really honest. Hofstra's not a school that's run a lot of zone thus far this year, so you wouldn't have a whole lot of it on tape to get ready for it. And then, frankly, it's also the kind of thing where Houston then just kind of gets to roll out whatever they're going to try against a zone kind of spontaneously. And you get to kind of see what works and what doesn't work. And honestly, it felt like they did some settling. And I think Mercy, the bench group was in, I guess I should say for this part. So also you might not worry about it because the starters weren't all in for any stretch of this time. But Mercy gets to space really well a couple different times and either passes out if it wants the zone collapses and we miss a shot, or Mercy himself misses the shot or whatever. So I think they got decent shots against the zone. I think that's going to be the overreaction takeaway from this, though, is that Houston couldn't score against the zone. So what are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? And the answer is they're going to practice it, and they're going to use that 4 or 5 minutes of whatever it was of game film to get back into it and figure some things out. The future of the program is really, really bright. And I think that's almost goes without saying, honestly, really, really bright. And I wanted to spend the last couple minutes here as a short post-game episode, but I want to spend the last couple minutes here. Talking about one bit of recruiting news that has been kind of somewhat hush-hush for the Houston Cougar basketball program last like 7 or 8 days. But they've got about to be a very big day coming. And it's kind of been like, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen for about a week now? And I thought it was interesting as far as this recruiting stuff goes. I'm not going to say the kid's name, but I heard a confirmation he was coming about a week ago. Then I heard a couple things on Tuesday about like this has to happen, that has to happen. And then I heard some like that was Tuesday was there, like 4 different opinions from 4 different people about 4 different options that could happen. They couldn't all happen. So clearly at least 3 of them were wrong. And that was disheartening a little bit, kind of canceled my Wednesday episode because of that. But the truth is that I think there's a lot of fighting and fishing and recruiting to get out there and put a kid's name on a school and say, I've heard confirmation that XYZ is happening because of this, right? And I've been intentionally vague because I don't think that's right. And I want to stress that while I think people can have kind of figured out what may be about to happen for Houston in terms of a very big deal in recruiting, after already having a couple of big deals in recruiting this fall for basketball, is that, for player in question, generally speaking, committing and signing is like the biggest day of your individual high school career of your individual basketball career to this point. I guess as a team, you may have been a part of good teams or something. But it's hard to top getting scholarship and signing and committing to the University of Houston, a top-end basketball program in America, right? And part of that is like an announcement. And I think part of the reason I'm so like, I don't necessarily like the way that it's gone the last however long, where people are, and I guess maybe I feel more into it than I thought I did, is that like, that's a moment of the kid's life that like they get to live once, right? They commit and sign theoretically one time, and I hope that like as this unfolds over the next few days, that we like let the kid have the moment, right? Let the kid have the moment. Be excited, be vague in the lead up, and so on, but let the kid have the moment and roll with it, because I'll tell you right now, this program is going to be good, almost feeling like no matter who puts on a uniform. Now, if this handful of kids that are coming put on uniforms, I think they're going to be really good. But it seems like Samson and company doesn't really matter. And so enjoy it, be in the moment, be present with this current pace team, because I think that they're also really good and deserving of the attention. And then let the kid have the moment in high school when they commit and sign, and don't feel like you need to go out there and do a whole bunch of beating up to the punch of stuff. I don't know. I guess, like I said, I feel somewhat guilty because like I tweeted out Cougar Paws when I heard some good news and people started running with that. Anyway, maybe that's why I'm on my soapbox on it today. But whatever the case may be, we've got Baylor football tomorrow. Wearing blue to go beat Baylor, giving Baylor the blues, as I think the way that one goes. Got to win that one to get to full eligibility. I'm going to be paying attention to that one for my wedding and then finding a way to break it down sometime in the 18 hours or so after that. Probably watch it live twice on Sunday, which is a lot in one day if it's not a great one. So let's hope it's a great one. I think Houston's going to have a good shot in that one, though. And I talked about it in my previous show on Friday, but I think Houston's going to have a pretty good shot in that one. Whatever the case may be, though, win, lose, tie, draw, we get that. NIL Players Classic, recruiting in basketball and football, all kinds of things happening all week long at Locked On Cougs. They subscribe, hit the bell to live. Locked On Cougs, primary of the Locked On Podcast Network. It means your team every day, but especially on the days you win 80-44. Go Cougs.